NBA 2K26 isn't even out yet, and people are calling for a patch to rhythm shooting. Well, because frankly, rhythm shooting was insane in Community Day. And I guess what people are upset about is that you don't need to necessarily time the shot release window. Now you just have to time your tempo. And I think people are caught up with the surface level discussion because they see a white for timing and they think that that's a cheat code. But in this video, we're going to break everything down, including the hidden mechanics surrounding rhythm shooting and why this is actually a big improvement over 2K25. So rhythm shooting is a two motion input where you pull the right stick down to initiate your shot and then push it up once you reach your set point, matching the tempo of your shot release motion. In NBA 2K25, it gave a ridiculous boost that it didn't make sense to really shoot with anything other than rhythm shooting. So here what you can see is we perfectly timed our set point and the tempo of our rhythm shot, resulting in greens all around. But in 2K26, enhanced rhythm shooting doesn't require that you time your set point correctly. Now your shot timing will manipulate your player's body and essentially change the speed of your release. Release the timing too early, you will have a quicker release, and release it too late, you will have a lazier release. Let me tell you, man, I'm gonna have a separate discussion on shooting overall and the changes to shooting in 2K26. I will say this, rhythm shooting felt really good for players that you know how to use. For players that you didn't know their shot releases, rhythm shooting can actually be pretty much of a pain is basically what I experienced. But for guys like Steph Curry, for example, who I know the release like the back of my hand, rhythm shooting was pretty cool. So essentially, what's in the changes in timing for rhythm shooting? So I ran a few tests during Community Day, getting a slightly early release and comparing that with an excellent release. And as you can see from the audio in the clips, there is a clear difference in the timing of the tempo for both shots. On the right is where we have slightly early timing, and as you can see, at our release point, we are just above our set point in the excellent release clip on the left. So this is about a 5 to 7 frame advantage, which ranges from anywhere from about a 12th of a second to around 130 milliseconds. So we're doing a separate test here for excellent versus late, and I think the range is the same, around 8 to 10 frames in this case. These tests are nowhere near scientific, but what you can see here is clear is that enhanced rhythm shooting in 2K26 delivers on the promise of the Courtside Report blog, where your differences in shot timing will impact the quickness of a release and therefore the tempo of your shot. So think of mistiming your timing of the release as the green window for your tempo. So visually, for example, this excellent versus late release shows you that, on the right hand side with the late release, there's a little bit of a hang, which looks a little bit awkward. And I'll talk about the gameplay implications of this later on. But as you can see, once again, excellent versus late, there will be a 5 frame advantage for excellent release versus late release in this James Harden shot. I will say that the frame times are generally different depending on which time of shot, because they can't make it longer because otherwise they just hang in the air too long or just fall to the ground before the release. But what you can generally see with the late release is that it's a little bit of a lazy release with a longer hang. And this mechanic allows for greater shot control. So once again, you can see here as I initiate this DeMar DeRozan side hop jumper, I get concerned because the green window shrinks very quickly, so I speed up my release and just time the tempo appropriately to hit on that shot. But where it gets interesting is when you combine it with the no-dip jumper. So here, for example, you see Jaden McDaniels closing out really hard on J-Dub. So I initiated the no-dip jumper, but also I initiated a quick release for rhythm shooting. So that 23% contested release potentially could have been 50 or above if I didn't use either mechanic. So the combination of both those mechanics just gives you a skill-based way to enhance your shooting. So, but what's the catch? Now that I don't have to time it necessarily, well, first of all, tempo-based shooting mostly makes sense the closer you are to your timing window. The further you were from your timing window, the more difficult it was to really match the tempo of your shot. So the whites were a little bit easy to just time the tempo perfectly, but anywhere when it gets too early or late and very late release, then it really gets difficult to match tempo, giving you a disadvantage. Also, there are real gameplay consequences for late shots in that you hang a little bit too long, and as a result allows your defender, in this case Mike Conley, who look at that insane separation, because I delay my shot by just a little bit, allows Mike Conley to catch up, and we get contested as a result, which will have big implications in terms of the success of your shot. What this means from a gameplay perspective is that the more contested you are, that green window will shrink and shrink. So there are consequences to not properly timing your jump shot timing. It will just give you a higher contest, which in some cases, didn't bother as much, but I'm not showing you the situations where the higher contest actually contributed to a miss by using rhythm shooting. So once again, I was more likely to release shots slightly late than early, just because the motion for early releases is a bit more difficult than that for late releases. But in any case, what you're gonna see from this clip with Steph Curry right here is that there is a quicker shot motion associated with an earlier release and a well-timed release that combines with a more intuitive timing of the tempo. As you can see here, the slightly late release once again for Steph Curry results in a longer hang for the shot on the right hand side of the screen, leading to a higher contest as a result. But once again, let me tell you, because 2K26 made RNG a thing of the past, if you get familiar with your players' releases, it's incredible the stuff you can do. Now, there's gonna be a bit of a time commitment to sort of figure out how to manipulate the timing of your releases to match tempo perfectly, especially for early releases. But what I can tell you is that I went on Hall of Fame difficulty and tried to abuse the system. But what you're seeing right here is a few clips of me with Steph just using regular shooting, and it felt fine. Where rhythm shooting was very difficult was when using guys I was not familiar with, like Jimmy Butler, or some of the post shots, for example, have a unnatural rhythm to it that makes tempo timing very difficult. But essentially what this video says is that 2K26 is delivering on the promise of the gameplay blog. I know it looks kind of crazy that, I'm making white release shots, but just remember that the new system gives you more flexibility in the speed of your shot, and therefore, by definition, we can't just require that you have to perfectly time the timing window for your rhythm shots. Now they control a different thing, which is the speed of your jumper, which, as seen from my tests, directly affects the length of time in which you'll have to time your tempo-based shots. So I saw some comments where people were saying that this was basically a cheat code, or this was basically 2K hand-holding you. As you've seen from the tests, depending on what release you choose, it will have an impact on how easy or difficult or how natural or intuitive the tempo-based timing feels. And in any case, rhythm shooting in 2K25 required you to time two different things, and it gave you a significant boost. In 2K26, at least according to Mike Wang, there is not gonna be a boost for rhythm shooting versus your regular timing based shots, either by using square or the stick, though I think the stick in general will have an advantage in terms of boosts. But in theory, rhythm shooting shouldn't have any additional boost other than you can now control your shot. And for people who used rhythm shooting last year, it continues to feel natural, and it continues to give you now more flexibility than in 2K25 in terms of controlling your shot. So there, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something new. This isn't going to be the end of my tests for rhythm shooting for 26. I have limited footage from Community Day that allowed me to make like-for-like comparisons, and even then, some of these comparisons were not like-for-like at all. So we'll have to run those tests again once the game is out. But I hope you learned something about rhythm shooting. No, it's not a cheat code. In fact, that creators were able to time their tempo means, one, they were probably used to rhythm shooting in years past, and two, that just shows you the adaptability and the attention to detail that creators pay in terms of just having to time that tempo, which will require you to really lock into your animations. So there you have it. I'll have a separate discussion on shooting overall with uncut, mostly uncut gameplay using Steph Curry on Hall of Fame difficulty. And believe me, you'll want to see that because the results are gonna be eye-opening, I think, into the monster that 2K26 is going to unleash in terms of shooting. So hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one. I got a few more from Community Day. Believe me, we got a lot more from Community Day. Stay locked in, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.